All right, today we are tackling the water pump on a 2014 Chevy Cruze. This is the 1.4 liter with the turbocharger on it. We got a leaky water pump, so we're gonna replace that. Thing to come out will be the air box and the intake tube as well. I did get one step ahead of myself here. First thing I'm going to do is take down this splash guard off the bottom so it'll be easier to clean up the coolant afterwards. Catch me down here when we turn the gun. Right, next thing to do is hold the engine up with block. The engine block is aluminum, so fragile compared to the steel that's on the jack, so put a wood block in between it to protect your oil pan. Just enough pressure to keep it from sagging when you take the engine mount off. Next task is to get this electrical connection taken off your thermostat and disconnect your radiator hose from the end of the thermostat housing. Normally you would take these E10 bolts out, but I'm replacing this as a unit, so the water pump is here and the thermostat and thermostat housing are a single unit right here. So I'm replacing both of them. I'm going to pull them out as a unit and put them back in as a unit. All right, next task is to remove the motor mount. Motor mount connection, there's actually two halves of it. This half is connected to the frame. There's a bushinged arm here that bolts into three mounting points there on the actual bracket that's mounted to the engine block, and there's 3 bolts in each location. I believe they're all 15 mils. So that's our next job. Alrighty, so there's all of our obstructions out of the way. Now we can actually get to work on pulling the pulley off of the water pump, which I'm going to loosen before I take the belt off. Then we can actually untension the belt from there and take the... So I misspoke on these. These are actually E12s in size. So break it loose by hand. Next step here is to get all of these bolts removed out of here. There's a couple that are kind of hard to see, but they're in there. Get these hoses disconnected, there is another hose that's attached on the underside of the thermostat. And once I get the whole unit pulled out, I can disconnect that one fairly easily. Alright, got all the bolts out of it. So now, I believe this is the factory water pump. I don't think it's been off here. This car's got 197,000 miles on it. I think that's the original water pump. So there's a little tab. It's kind of hard to spot, but there's a little tab back here that I'm going to stick a little pry bar behind, and we'll see if we can pop her loose. And that's what the catch pan's for. Right, now that we've got it separated from the block, you can see that other hose back there that's connected on the back side of the thermostat housing. I got the clamp off of it, used a long pair of needle nose pliers to loosen that and move it back. So I'll get that popped off, and then this whole water pump and thermostat housing unit will come off as one piece. For space, there's a bunch of the factory sealant that's left on there, so I'll use my scraper and get all of that stuff off of there. And once it's gone, probably hit it with a Scotch-Brite and just to kind of scuff the surface up a little bit, so we've got a nice cleaned off surface ready for the new gaskets. All right, got a pretty clean mating surface there, so now we're going to start prepping up the new parts. All right, so the first thing we're going to do here is compare new to old and make sure that parts match up and line up, everything looks the same, and it does on the actual pump housing assembly itself. Let's also check the thermostat and housing. Those are identical. Oh, look, and this one comes directly from the factory with a broken alignment tab. So looks like I'll probably pop this new sensor out and put the old one in its place, just so I don't have to make a 60-mile round trip back to the parts store. Okay, so new pump comes with new gasket also, but new gasket does not stick to the housing very well. So we're going to put a small bead of RTV around all the mating surfaces here, just so that this gasket will stick, and then we'll put another bead on the inside so that it will stick to the engine block. Alright, so there is the pump reinstalled. Got all the bolts back in, hopefully all in the right places. And we'll let that sit for a little bit. Then I'll go around, let that new RTV sealant sit there for a bit. And then we'll go around and torque everything to where it's supposed to be. I believe it's 14 foot-pounds for each of these. And then once that's done, we can do all the reattachment of everything else, put the motor mount back in, and fill it back up with coolant and go with it.